Today is all about 10 JRPGs you didn't know existed, but the thing is, they belong to series you do know about, but you probably never heard of these because most of them are pretty damn obscure. And you know what this channel's mostly about? Obscure JRPGs. Also, I don't think I've covered most of these games before, so with that in mind, let's begin. Number 10. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy in Itadaki Street. What the hell, right? I'm sure some of you have seen that Fortune Street game on the Wii with Super Mario and Dragon Quest characters. Well, this predates it, originally released on the PlayStation 2, later ported to the PSP, and then remastered on the PlayStation 4. All versions never left Japan, but the PS2 and PSP ones have been fan-translated to English for a while now. And, well, it's basically Monopoly. Yeah. You choose between one of various characters across both series, but you won't be able to choose your opponents. The computer will choose them for you. Then you choose a board out of just a few because each one takes a couple of hours to complete. So you start the game and everyone's turn is decided by throwing dice. After that, during your turn, you'll throw in one die and move across the map. And it plays like Monopoly, like I said. You buy shops to make money or trade them later on. You can also buy stock from the market, raise it or lower it. If you land on someone else's shop, you'll have to give them money, blah blah. You know Monopoly, right? The graphics are beautiful on the PS2 version, with every character animation and board backgrounds looking highly detailed. This PSP version is a different game with its own boards and all. Some characters aren't here anymore, but instead you got new ones from other titles. The same can be said about the PS4 version. Anyway, so yeah, this isn't a JRPG as you may have guessed, but I really needed to include it to make you aware of it. Being a fan of these characters just adds up to what already is a fun game to play. Number 9. Atelier Lulua. A lot of people missed this game because it wasn't part of any of the modern trilogies. Instead, it was released in 2019 and it's the 4th title in the Arland saga that concluded like 15 years ago. Remember Atelier Rorona on PS3? Well, in this game you play as her daughter. So yeah, Rorona had a daughter at some point long after her game was over, apparently. This is on Switch, PS4 and Steam, by the way. Alright, Lulua lives in a little town and is training under her teacher to become an alchemist. One day she comes across a magical book that only she can read and decides to start deciphering its pages by, you guessed it, doing alchemy or performing tasks. So to progress in the story you need to synthesize this or find that in order to complete a whole page. The gameplay is identical to any other Atelier game of its kind, as in you go around gathering materials in the field and fighting monsters with a day and night cycle. Synthesis here, however, is one of the most simple systems across the entire series, with close to zero complex shenanigans others put you through. Combat is also the same, regular turn-based with a party up to 3 characters. If you execute a skill, you might get an extra attack by an ally in the support roster. You can also switch between characters from that roster whenever you want, but you'll lose a turn in the process. The game's only easy during the first couple of hours, but then it'll start spiking a bit too hard. But there are difficulty settings in the menu which can be changed at any time. So, nice music, beautiful graphics, overall, Lulua is a fun game, but I do feel you need to play at least Rorona first to fully understand it. You probably didn't know this existed because it was released only 5 months prior to Ryza, which was a massive success and of course completely overshadowed it. Not sure what they were thinking releasing 2 mainline Atelier games so close together. Number 8. Wild Arms Alter Code F. This, believe it or not, is a Wild Arms remake. Yeah, and we did get it in North America, courtesy of H-Tech. It's the exact same story with the exact same characters, but with a few additions. Obviously the most noticeable difference is the graphics. They're now on 3D with large character models that aren't sprites or polygons like in the original. The gameplay is still the same, with each character specializing in a variety of tools to solve puzzles or get across dungeons. You still have random encounters in the overworld or inside any place other than a town. Another thing that's new is that the battle system, while still turn-based, is identical to the one seen in Wild Arms 3. You choose everyone's actions at the beginning and they start moving around for different camera angles to execute their actions. But now, you can have extra party members that'll join your party temporarily, and you can switch between them at the beginning of each turn if you want to have the other recover in the back while another one takes over. Those are the most relevant differences. There's more, some being great, others being bad. I might have to do a comparative review of all versions of this game one of these days. But yeah, you probably didn't know this remake existed, huh? Well, now you do. Number 7. Ragnarok DS. Ragnarok Online was an MMORPG many years ago, one of the first of its kind, so a bunch of offline JRPG spin-offs were developed thanks to its popularity. The most notable ones are Ragnarok Tactics, a fantastic game, and Ragnarok Odyssey, a solid action RPG. But then there was Ragnarok DS, another action RPG. Nothing unusual so far. You control Ailes, or Alice, trying to find his missing father since his mother has recently passed away, so he aims to start a guild, recruiting different characters in the process that'll join him in his adventure. Sounds good so far, right? Except everything. And I mean everything is controlled by the stylus. An action RPG where you fight using the touch screen. Is it any good at least? Well, actually, kinda. I mean, it isn't bad, it isn't great or anything, but somehow, miraculously, it works just fine. Number 6. Star Ocean Blue Sphere. Most of you didn't know that Star Ocean 2 on the PS1 had a direct sequel. Of course, it never left Japan, but an English translation has been there for a few years. This is exclusive to the Game Boy Color, and it follows the adventures of the secondary cast of Star Ocean 2, crash landing in a new planet. You can make a party of only 3 characters, but you only control one, and the AI will do the rest during battle. So off you go to explore this underdeveloped planet with humans and monsters living on it. No random encounters exist, surprisingly, within areas or ruins, but there is no overworld whatsoever. All towns are interconnected by different areas. The battle system is entirely in 2D, and it's clunky as hell, but for some reason it doesn't take you long to get used to it. You only have 1 or 2 combos per character and a couple of usable skills. It's also surprisingly easy, which makes sense, otherwise the game will be extremely frustrating thanks to these controls. Anyway, as you level up, characters will learn more skills by using points, but these points you learn are shared among the party, so you need to divide them strategically. The skill tree system is identical to the one in Star Ocean 2, since you'll also learn passive skills or exploration skills, the latter being used to solve certain puzzles or advance throughout certain areas. The graphics and music are real nice, worth pointing out, especially if you like pixel art and 2D animations. So overall, it's a good game and the translation is solid. If you're a fan of Star Ocean 2, this is a pretty good follow-up, surprisingly fun and charming at the same time. Number 5. Dot Hack Link. Meet the last console game in the series before its sudden halt. Only some lame phones games came after this until finally the GU trilogy was remastered several years ago. Nothing after that. This is yet another crossover with characters across the series, exclusive to the PSP and, you guessed it, exclusive to Japan. As you've been seeing though, it's been fan-translated for a while. You play as Tokyo, who likes the fictional MMORPG The World, until he literally and physically gets transported there by his best friend. His goal is to rescue most of the characters of the series because they've been trapped by an unknown power controlled by AI. Well, you know, it's not exactly an unusual plot if you've played this series before. You don't move around like in the rest of the games, instead you use menus to visit certain locations or talk to people and read emails. Yeah, in this sideways view, because you could do that with your PSP, well, but the interaction is bare bones until your base slowly, very slowly starts getting better with upgrades later on. So you'll watch some scenes and then go to small dungeons with very few areas and a boss at the end. You can only control Tokyo and only one ally can accompany you. You fight enemies in regular action combat, which is pretty satisfactory and responsive using skills and shit, so that's the good part. However, to defeat most enemies you have to break their shields first, so Tokyo can launch them in the air. Once there, a combo will start between Tokyo and his party member. The combo though is based on clicking the button at the right time when the icon down there enters the bar. Each time it goes faster and it can be easy to miss. You still do damage if you miss after a few good clicks though, but not a lot. In fact, the combo won't end until you miss or until you fill up the bar on the right to max. When that happens, you'll be able to execute a special attack with your ally. This is an awesome battle system actually, but it has one fatal flaw. As I mentioned, you have to do that with every single enemy. Hence why the missions are quite short, but even with that in mind, the developers didn't think that it will be extremely repetitive. The music and graphics are fine. Some tracks have lyrics like the boss themes for example, and they're great. But the story is just as slow as the game itself, taking forever to get to the popular characters from the PS2 JRPGs. Honestly, every arc should take only a couple of hours and not 7 or 8. This isn't a bad game, it's just hard to recommend because of everything that I just said. Number 4. Pokemon Conquest. I reviewed these years ago in another top 10 and I'm still stuck in awe. There's nothing wrong with a Pokemon strategy RPG with grid-based movement and regular combat. My problem with this game is that it's officially a crossover with Nobunaga's Ambition, published by Nintendo, a series of old computer NES and SNES games based on ancient books. Why in the holy monkey of hell will there ever be a Pokemon crossover with Nobunaga's Ambition? Why will someone make this? Koei Tecmo made this, and it's literally about your character fighting the warlords in the world with your Pokemon. Seriously? Imagine if there was a Hyperdimension Neptunia crossover with, I don't know, God of War. Now, how would that look like, huh? I'd like to see that, cause apparently we live in a world where Pokemon Cross Nobunaga's Ambition exists. Well, is this unusual spin-off any good? Yeah, it sure is. I mean, it's not wow, okay? But it's decent and enjoyable. In fact, I feel like you don't have to be a fan of either series to get into it and enjoy it. I enjoyed it. Just because it's an extremely bizarre experiment doesn't mean it's a bad game. But it's still an exclusive to the Nintendo DS, by the way, I just wanted to let you know. Number 3. Persona 5 Tactica. Yeah, I think a lot of you know this one, but just in case. No one should be surprised at this point that the Persona 5 became its own media franchise with mangas, anime, books, figures, and of course, many spin-offs. But the one that stands out to me the most is Tactica, a game inspired by none other than a crossover series between Super Mario Bros. And freaking Rabbids. Mario and Rabbids are a bunch of tactical games inspired by the XCOM series, which was inspired by Valkyria Chronicles, except Tactica specifically rips off the Mario and Rabbids games, which are very different from Valkyria Chronicles. I think I'm confusing you, but that just proves my point. The game isn't that unusual, but of all the genres they could have done to make yet another Persona 5 spin-off, Atlus just went for that. Is it any good? Actually, yeah, it is! During the events of the original Persona 5, the characters get magically teleported to some strange world where strange creatures are fighting a strange revolution led by a strange human girl. Yeah. So together with the Persona 5 cast, they rescue a politician who seems to be in the middle of it all. Well, it's an unusual plot too, as you can see. The gameplay is identical to the Mario and Rabbids games, as in you have a small party of characters, in this case only 3, using terrain to either take cover, hide, jump around, and fire. All done in turn-based combat. It's actually easy to understand and get into, which is why I do recommend it for everybody, and I don't mean to state the obvious, but it is necessary to play Persona 5 first before this. but no experience is necessary in any other game, not even in the Mario and Rabbids series. Yeah, this is a good spin-off, unusual but good. Check it out if you can. Number 2, Suikoden Card Stories. Konami made this highly unusual spin-off just to promote the real card game with collectible card based on Suikoden. Except this game is basically a retelling of the exact same events of Suikoden 2. Same story, slightly different dialogue and events, but overall the same. It was fan-translated over a decade ago, but I didn't know that until recently. I put it on this list because the gameplay system is just what the hell. After this or that event from the original game, you'll get into battle mode. At first, a coin will be tossed, and if it isn't blank, you'll get the first turn. The game will ask you then if you want to shuffle the deck or not. After that, the battle will finally start. This is where it gets super weird. The goal of every battle is to get a specific amount of VP, which I assume stands for victory points, but to start it, you have to select one of those blue cards with a specific event of the game. Even if you're not at that event yet, which is obnoxious. Why can't I just do a regular turn-based battle in the event of the story I'm supposed to be in? Instead, I'm picking the battle with the Mist Monster here, except there's no Mist Monster in sight. It's just the beginning of the game where Joey and Ryo escape from the Highland camp. For every battle, you must select a leader like Flick or Ryu, for example. Then this battle interface starts and both the enemy and you will select cards with different stats to attack. The event card that I mentioned before. And the enemy can have similar cards to yours, which means the same characters. Anyway, the goal of every round is to do up to 10 damage to the card in the middle before the enemy does. So you just beat up the same card, you and the enemy. If you win, you'll select one character to stay with that card and then move on to another event in your deck. If you don't have one, you have to discard card after card until one shows up. At base or at towns, you can buy or sell different cards, save the game, build a different deck of cards, and then leave to explore the dungeons. These dungeons are optional, but they lead nowhere. They're just there so you can find new cards in chests, but there are barely any chests out there. And believe it or not, there are also random encounters with regular monsters. Same battle system, same rules. I would have preferred if it had a different story, its own original story, even if it was with the same characters, and a less complex system without the dumb penalties and shenanigans. Other than that, I'll admit it's a fun game, especially if you're a die-hard Suikoden 2 fan like I am. Number 1. Utawarerumono Zan. Yeah, I know. This isn't from a popular JRPG series, but I don't care, you need to know about it. Nobody played this game because barely anyone played the others! Those are a trilogy of grid-based strategy RPGs, but they're also visual novels, something that tends to drive a lot of RPG gamers away. Zan, though, is basically a reimagining of the second game in the trilogy called Mask of Deception. It follows the exact same plot and the exact same events. An amnesiac guy wakes up in a fantasy world with people with animal ears and tails. Surely but slowly the world starts drowning in the tragedies of war. Plot twists are also present and unaltered, but the gameplay is very different. This is now an action RPG, Musou style, where you fight hordes of enemies, and you can control up to 4 active characters. You can change between them at any given time. The controls are excellent here, very responsive, intuitive, with each character having their own set of skills and combos. Anyway, you also gain experience by defeating enemies. However, you don't have a skill tree, instead you have these attributes that you can unlock with points you'll get after every mission, and level them up as well. You can equip some accessories and different items that increase certain types of attacks, you know, the usual stuff. No towns or overworld exploration exists here, which might be why some people probably won't see this as an RPG. Regardless, this is a fantastic game and it's definitely worth playing for the gameplay alone. It's only on PS4 and Steam. A sequel was released, which is a reimagining of Mask of Truth, but it hasn't been released anywhere except, of course, Japan.